budget papers just released show that 500 million has been promised by the Albanese government for high-speed rail, of which only 92 million has been allocated to you in your funding up until 26-27. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So what's the other 408 million? Who gets that?
The 408 has been allocated for corridor protection for the Sydney to Newcastle section.
So corridor protection, you mean they're going to actually buy land?
That's the corridor protection can be means of both statutory provisions, such as a SEP, or it could be actually acquiring some of the land.
Sorry, what's the first one?
Statutory planning consent. So in other words, you actually, when you put the plan and make it into a statutory alignment, so that when people come to develop in the future, they can see where the alignment is going to go, and you actually have planning refusal, if you like, for people trying to put buildings or developments along the alignment.
So, okay, of that 408 million, how much is actually for the physical land and how much...
It has just been allocated as a general allocation, and it covers corridor preservation, early works and early investigation. So it hasn't been divided up into any particular category, it's just an allowance at the moment.
So it's just been put aside. Has any money been put aside, or is that the expected cost?
No, it's just an allowance that's been put there. What will happen is once we've done the business case, we'll be in a position to understand the cost of the whole project, including things like corridor preservation, staging of the works and that type of things.
Okay, righto, thank you. So let's focus on the 92 million. How many people that's been allocated to your department? How many people are in your department?
At the moment, we have 19 employees, 16 currently work for us, 3 join us in the next 3 weeks.
So let's say round it up to 20.
That's right.
At, say, $250,000 each, 250,000, which is quite a lot. That's 5 million. So where's the other 92 million? So 5 million out of 92. What's the other 87 for?
Okay, so the other is obviously it's covering staff costs. It's also covering the there was an allocation for the business case, and that's the business case we're working at the moment, which was 70 million for the business case, and we're in the process of doing the business case now.
Okay, so you've got so let's just round it up to 20. So you've got 20 people working for you, and then you've got another 78 million for the business case.
That's right.
What goes to external contractors, does it?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Oh, sorry, it goes to the way we've done it at the moment is we've got a series of external contractors, and we also have an arrangement where we've actually engaged Transport for New South Wales from New South Wales to assist in the preparation of the business case.
Right, so they're going to get some of that 78 million.
They are indeed, yes.
Right, okay. So I note that there's been 8 work packages released to the market, and there's of those packages you've got a First Nations People Cultural and Heritage Advisory Services, First Nations People Participation and Engagement Services, Commercial Delivery and Industry Engagement Services, Transport Land Use and Property Advisory Services, HSR, High Speed Rail Network, Rail Operations, Project Controls, Economic Funding and Financing and Technical Advising. I'll just go through a couple of these packages. Let's take the Economics, Funding and Financing. Why would you have to outsource that role, given that we have, thousands of people at Treasury on very high salaries? Well, why is that being outsourced? Why couldn't your staff do that?
We don't have those type of staff in HESRA at the moment. As you said, we're a relatively new organisation. The sort of expertise that we need are specialists, and that's why we've outsourced it. These are people that actually understand transport economics and also understand the funding and financing available around.
Okay, so Minister, I'll come back to you then. Why are we paying external consultants money for something as, I won't say it's simple, I'll take that for granted, being in finance myself, but surely economics, funding and financing and demand modelling services is something that Treasury could do in-house, isn't it? Noting that the Prime Minister himself has said we're going to bring, that the existing government is going to bring, all the work back in-house rather than use external contractors. I just find that looks like we don't really, I would have thought we could do that in Treasury. Have you got a remark on that?
Well, Treasury staff are not available for this sort of work. Mr Parker's outlined the sorts of people that they need to get this very important project started. Planning is important, and we're doing this right, and I think, Mr. Parker's already outlined how important transport economics is, and it's a specialist skill set.
Okay, so I'll take your word on that, but this isn't going to happen overnight, the high-speed rail between Melbourne and Brisbane. So I would have thought, because if you're going to take these guys on as consultants, they're going to charge a big premium, and it's not that specialist in the sense that, I mean, I come from this area, it's not rocket science how to do modelling. I mean, the technical stuff is, the engineers and all the land valuation and the actual soil content and stuff like that. But the actual modelling, I just struggle to understand why we wouldn't have the skill set in-house in Treasury.
So look, certainly things like, if you look at the demand modelling, we actually have to go back to first principles for demand modelling, because we don't actually have a high-speed rail that we can say this is what it does. So we're going to have to look at not just the normal demand modelling, we're also going to have to sort of start considering cost of time versus high speed versus conventional railway. So it's a different type
time
of
motion
process.
studies, I get that.
Yeah. So there is some speciality in it, and that's why we think it's better to go to a specialist. The companies we've gone to are not necessarily just coming from an Australian experience, they're bringing some international expertise with them as well. So that's why we're actually trying to get the best that we can.
Well, and I guess this is my problem. I mean, we spend billions of dollars on infrastructure every year. I mean, we have, federal highways. I know that railways are generally, managed by the state governments, but it's a sad indication of our skill set, given that we have such a large percentage of school leavers now going on to university, that we don't have a skill set that, and you're saying you've got to rely on foreign skill sets to actually be able to price the cost of a railway line.
The authority has been charged with putting together an incredibly skilled set of specialists to get this job done, and that is what they're doing.
Right.
So I was just going to say that.
Yeah, and I'm not. I guess my question is to you, Minister, is why we aren't doing this in house. But anyway, we'll leave that. We haven't really got an answer on that, but that's okay.
Authorised G. Rennick, LNP Chermside.